What's up, guys? I'm coming to you in the spirit of barefacedness, and I have a question for white people. So I just finished watching Grand Army on Netflix, and I'm putting together my notes for my YouTube reaction, and I wanted to ask this. If you were a white person that went to school with at least half of the population of your school being white or predominantly white, and there were a few students of color, why is it so common for white kids to refer to those students of color by their color or their ethnicity? For example, there was a kid in the show named Sid who was probably born in New York, but his white counterparts always called him New Delhi. Just like Black Mike, whatever it is, fill in the blank. It's that kind of stuff that makes it hard to believe when white kids say that they have no idea that race is a problem. Because it seems that white people are very hyper aware of race. So much so that when they meet someone, they never can just say who they are, but they have to say, oh, Asian this person, Black that person. I want to know why.
Dying inside, wondering maybe I made a big mistake.
I'm really glad she posted this because I've been dying to ask white women this question, and I mean dying to ask. I was a server at a pricey, bougie restaurant, which means I served a lot of these men and their wives, the kind of men who support Trump. And I have been in situations where these men have sexually assaulted me, my coworkers. They say crazy shit in front of their wives about women, about Black people, about any type of other. Never once in my experience have I ever seen a white woman correct him, stand up, say anything, wave a red flag. Nothing. Never once did it ever happen. And I've always wondered, is that how y'all really feel? Like, for real? I don't know who needs to hear this, but we are not letting Asian people and Pacific Islanders be considered white. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing. You will not erase their culture because whiteness is shrinking. Just get used to it. Just get used to it. White women. Some, not all, because you know most of y'all are my bitches. But for the rest of you, if you don't understand that accountability is not an attack, if you don't understand that you as a white woman in the history of your women have been complicit and continue to be complicit today in the oppression of women of color, and that's a problem for you, number one, don't follow me. And number two, stay out of my mentions. Because the victim complex is too much for me. Every time we talk about something that white women have done, please get out of my comments with, well, we would have been abused if we didn't do it. Every situation is not that. Every situation isn't the threat of domestic violence because you don't want to acknowledge the ways that you continue to be complicit. I'm not going for it, so stop. Hi. This is another video just for white girls. I said this is another video just for white girls. So if you're not a white girl, okay. To the white girls who are dragging the other white girls in my comment section trying to piggyback off my oppression, I fucks with you. I fucks with you. And all I want to say is thank you for handling that light work. That's all. That's all. Because you're making it so I don't have to respond. I don't have to go back and forth. Don't feel like you got to go back and forth either. Because some of them just willfully don't want to get it. But a lot of y'all I'm seeing do. And so I just wanted to say, have a great day. This is for my cynical whites, my conspiracy theorists whites, my well-meaning anti-racist whites. Respectfully, please stop speaking on Obama and Kamala Harris. Please stop diminishing how hard they've worked and tokenizing them in the name of political performativeness. Stop coming down on them for having to make hard and unpopular decisions within the governance that your people designed. Because not only do I find it quite trite, I find it insulting. As a white person, you have no concept of what it's like to be a vastly intelligent black individual working within white institutions. The same institutions that you have to work for while they actively tear down your voice and minimize your ability to create real change. Don't pretend to be able to grasp what the representation of Obama and Kamala Harris really means to black people, because you have no idea. You don't know what that kind of representation means to us because you can't fathom what it's like to never having had it. Your energy to dismantle is appreciated, but the arrogance ain't cute. Here's a tip. Start in your own lane.
What's something, positive or negative, that has been made glaringly obvious by the COVID-19?
I wasn't sure if I was ever going to talk about this, but here it goes. It has been made glaringly obvious that people who fear, people who veil or wear hijab or mask for religious purposes are just racist, because despite the people who are just lazy and annoying and feel uncomfortable wearing a mask because they just don't want to, nobody's running around talking about how frightening it is to see somebody with a covered face, to see somebody jogging and you can only see their eyes because they have a hood on and a mask on. Nobody's scared. Nobody's fearing for their life. Everybody understands that they're doing it for their own reason for doing it to a certain level. And it's just funny how there's an entire group of people who were doing it for their very specific reasons to better their lives, but everybody was scared.
Of color, what is the most racist experience that you have experienced in school? Also,
from 2015 to 2018, I was a higher education professional at a university who did student involvement, development, and leadership. When I first got there, I was handed a diversity program with no mission and no identity, and I basically had to do a diversity week by myself in all involvement-based diversity programming, and I did it, and I killed it for multiple years. And then all of a sudden, they decided that my voice in Diversity Matters wasn't necessary. They cut me out of programming the events that I had programmed for 3 years in a row. When we started to have a lot of race issues on campus, they didn't invite me to any of the meetings. Even students would ask repeatedly why I wasn't there. They wouldn't allow any person of color that they couldn't tokenize to have any voice on the panel that could actually make a change or make a difference. And then they tried to gaslight me and tell me that it was just because I had a bad attitude. White people, can you do me a favor and stop coming on the internet with all of your theories about how deceptive our government is when you sat back for years and enabled the deception? Like, you could just as easily do something about it instead of coming online and complaining about it and doing nothing and complaining that your guns and things are going to be taken away when they've literally been taking our lives with no apology and no consequence. You show your privilege all the time because you just don't seem to get it. You enabled this. That thing that you hate, you enabled it. So,
what's one thing that just makes you extremely upset and you can't explain why?
if you have a flag on the back of your truck, kick rocks. Fuck that. Too many stickers on your car. Your car's not a trapper keeper, okay? It's not your binder. It's not your laptop face. Like,
until white people begin to put in the necessary energy to be in an interracial relationship, it has...
This is a great take on interracial relationships, and I would suggest listening to the full video, but I want to add on to it. This is coming off the heels of The Bachelor, and I'll be honest with you, I've never watched an episode of The Bachelor in my natural black life. But all in all, I get the gist. The first black bachelor picks a white girl, and the white girl ends up being racist. Surprise. But the truth is, whether you're in a relationship with somebody who's the same race as you or not, most of us don't do the work that we need to do prior to getting into relationships so that we don't end up harming our partners. We don't look at our childhood trauma. We don't consider why we seek the partners that we seek. These issues just become more glaringly obvious when you add race into the mix. This is why black women constantly talk about dating interracially for different reasons than our black male counterparts. We typically do some extensive vetting on that partner because we know how it is in these streets. A lot of black men don't think it's important and they end up embarrassed. And that's a conversation for another video.
How long was it before she ended your entire friendship?
Hi. So I have always had white female best friends, just by nature of like where I grew up. I'm not saying I didn't have black ones, but I always had white ones. The ones that I had true friendships with, I still am friends with them to this day. But I had a crazy grad school experience with a white girl who I thought was my friend. We were in the same grad assistant program, even in the same sorority. A couple weeks before our second year, I had gone through something really traumatic and I let her know I was coming back in a really bad headspace. Like, I let her know. And even though she knew that, she still pressed me on my work that had nothing to do with her. She still policed my attitude. It was very strange. And then made me like apologize weeks later, like really made it like a thing for weeks that I was upset and I hurt her feelings. Flash forward months down the road, she actually was talking hella cash money shit about me to our number one enemy, our actual supervisor. And one of my students outed her and we were never friends again.
I pushed back against a lot of authority when I was a kid, and my parents backed me up.
I agree with her whole video, but here's where intersectionality comes into play. Because my parents never taught me to respect authority either. My father's Nigerian, my mother's black, she's from the Bronx, okay? My parents taught me to, if it's wrong, say it's wrong, stand up for yourself. If they hit you, bust them back, okay? So when black parents come up to the school because their kid did something and they back their kid up like your parents backed you up, the difference is we get a label. We get teachers talking about us on Zoom and not knowing that the Zoom's still on. You feel me? Like, and it also has different consequences for black kids. We could be right all we want to and then still get choke slammed by a teacher in elementary school. Like, you feel me? But you're right.